Hello everyone. By the end of this video, you will be able to create a simple snake and ladder game in Python without writing a single line of code. Yes, I said that without writing a single line of code because ChatGPT will write all the code for us. But before we dive in and start building our game, let me tell you a little bit about me and DeepLearnHQ. I'm Saad, the CEO and lead instructor at DeepLearnHQ. At DeepLearnHQ, we have taught more than 15,000 students across 100 plus countries with more than a million minutes taught with an average rating of 4.5 stars through the Udemy platform. Apart from this YouTube channel, at DeepLearnHQ, we offer generative AI bootcamp for professionals and we offer generative AI consultancy services for businesses. So if you're interested in any of the two, more details are in the link below. Now, let's dive into the course, and to start with, my co-instructor Elishba will walk you through the course outlining.
Welcome to Python Fundamentals with ChatGPT. In the next hour, we'll dive into the essentials of Python, perfect for beginners or anyone needing a refresher. We'll start with an introduction to Python and guide you through setting up your coding environment. Then, we'll explore Python basics, like modules, pip, and how to effectively use comments and escape sequences. You'll learn about operators, data management, and typecasting, and we'll practice coding exercises along the way. We'll also cover how to handle user input, work with strings, and slice and manipulate string data. Finally, we'll wrap up with an in-depth guide to Python's powerful string methods. And by the end of this course, you'll have a solid foundation to build on, whether you're coding for work, fun, or even your own projects. Let's get started. Let's ask ChatGPT to help us write our very first Python program. For this, I'm going to give a prompt that says, "How do I write my first Python program?" And ChatGPT responds with, "Writing your first Python program is a great way to start learning programming. Here's a step-by-step guide. First is to install Python, then choose an editor. And thirdly, open your editor, write your first program, that is print hello world. So this is a simple Python program that prints hello world to the screen. Then save the file with a .py extension, for example hello.py, and then run the program. So open the terminal or command prompt and then navigate to the folder where you saved your Python file. And then type python hello.py, and then you will see an output hello world on the screen. So this is the basic understanding of the code. We'll be discussing this in great detail in our upcoming videos. So now let's take this code and run it in Google Colab to see it in action. So this is the interface of Google Colab. Here I'm going to type print brackets welcome to Python programming and then run this. And this is going to print welcome to Python programming on the terminal. So here is our output. This video was quick and short. In this video, we've explored what Python is, why it's such a popular programming language, and even wrote our first Python program together. So whether you're looking to get into web development, data science, or just automate some tasks, understanding and applying fundamental coding principles is essential for success. In this guide, we'll explore key concepts, strategies, and best practices that will help you become a successful coder and thrive in the ever-evolving tech landscapes. Let's start with fundamental programming concepts. First is syntax and data types. To start, it's crucial to familiarize yourself with the basic syntax and data types of the programming language you are learning. Syntax refers to the set of rules that define the structure of code in a language. Each language has its own syntax rules for writing instructions. Next comes the control structures. Control structures are essential for directing the flow of your code. They include conditional statements and loops. Conditional statements like if-else and elif allows your program to make decisions. Loops like for, while, or do while let you execute code repeatedly. Let's talk about functions and modules now. Organizing your code into functions and modules improves readability and reusability. Functions are blocks of code that perform a specific task that can be reused throughout your programs. Modules are files containing Python code that can be imported into other programs. Before diving into coding, thoroughly understand the problem you're trying to solve. Clearly define the input, output, and any other constraints. Consider a problem where you need to calculate the area of a rectangle. The inputs are length and width, and the output is the area. So break it down. Divide the problem into smaller, manageable subproblems. This makes it easier to develop a step-by-step solution. Next, test your code with various inputs to ensure it works correctly. Debug and refine your solutions based on your test results. Let's talk about continuous learning and skip development. Technology evolves rapidly. Stay curious and be open to learning new languages, frameworks, and tools. adapt to changes, and embrace all the challenges that comes with them. Second step is to seek feedback and mentorship. Actively seek feedback from experienced developers. Join online communities and find mentors who can guide you and provide valuable insights. Third step is practice, practice, and practice. Regular practice is essential. Work on personal projects, contribute to open source initiatives, and participate in coding challenges to enhance your skills. And lastly, stay organized and productive. Develop a good time management and organizational habits. Use tools like task trackers, code editors, and productivity softwares to streamline your workflow. Moving on to building a strong coding portfolio. Showcase your work. Create a portfolio highlighting your best projects. Include descriptions of the technologies used, challenges faced, and solutions implemented. The next step is to highlight your achievement. Showcase accomplishments such as coding competitions, hackathons, or contributions to open source projects. And then build and maintain a professional online presence. Use platforms like GitHub, LinkedIn, or a personal website to showcase your work and engage with the coding community. And lastly, continuous improvement. Regularly update your portfolio with new projects. Refine existing ones to demonstrate growth and adaptability. Mastering coding is a journey that involves understanding fundamental concepts, applying effective problem-solving strategies, and continuously improving your skills. By following these principles, staying curious, and practicing regularly, you will be well equipped to succeed in the dynamic world of programming. Embrace the challenges, keep learning, and enjoy the process of becoming a successful coder. So you know that Python is a versatile and beginner-friendly programming language. With ChatGPT, you can have a powerful tool at your disposal to help you understand concepts, write code, and troubleshoot issues. Let's see how ChatGPT can guide you through the learning process. Let's start with a simple Python programming, which is printing "Hello World" to the console. For this, I'm going to type a prompt that says, "How do I write a simple Python program to print "Hello World"?" So it says, "Writing a simple Python program to print "Hello World" is a great way to get started. Here's how you can do it. Open your code editor or IDE. You can use any text editor. We talked about Replit, but you can use these two, which are PyCharm, VS Code, Google Colab, or even more. Write the code. Type the following line of code, which is print, brackets, apostrophes, hello world, apostrophes close, and bracket close. Save the file. Save your file with a .py extension, for example, helloworld.py, and then run your program. To run your program, you can use the command line or terminal. Navigate to the directory where you saved your file and run the following command, which is Python, name of the file, followed by .py. This will execute a Python script and print "Hello World" to the console. Here's a step-by-step example. Open your text editor and type print "Hello World", save the file, and then open the terminal. For example, cd path to your directory. Run the script by typing python helloworld.py, and you see this output on your console. That's it. You have written and executed your first Python program. The print function to display the text "Hello World" on the screen. Let's talk about fixing syntax errors. Errors are a common part of programming. Let's see how ChatGPT can help you fix them. Suppose you forgot to close a parenthesis in your print statement. For this, you'll type a prompt, "Why is this code giving a syntax error?" The code is missing a closing parenthesis, so ChatGPT should recognize this. It says the code you provided is missing a closing parenthesis. This is why it's giving a syntax error. It has also fixed the code and provided us the correct version of the code. Make sure that you have both the opening and closing parentheses around the string "Hello World". This should fix the syntax error. Logical errors occur when the code runs but doesn't produce the expected results. ChatGPT can help you identify and correct these errors. Let's say you're trying to calculate the area of a rectangle, but the output is incorrect. Let's give this to ChatGPT. I've written, "Why is this code giving the wrong area? Width 5, height 10. Area is equals to width plus height. Print, the area is area." Notice that the formula is wrong, but the syntax is correct. Let's see what ChatGPT responds. So it says, "The issue with your code is that you are calculating the area using addition instead of multiplication. The area of rectangle is found by multiplying the width by the height." So it has corrected the code and provided the complete version. In this code, Width is multiplied by height to get the correct area. When you run this, you should see the correct output, which is 50. Here is a systematic approach to debugging your Python code with ChatGPT. First is when an error occurs. Python provides an error message. Let's use an example with the name error. What does the name error in this code means? Let's give this to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT responds with, a name error in Python means that you are trying to use a variable or function name that has not been defined or assigned a value before it is used. So you see that I have written print name, but I have not specified the thing name. The variable name has not been defined or assessed anywhere. So you do it like this. Name is equals to Alice, print name. In this correct version, the variable name is assigned the value Alice before it is printed. So there will be no name error and the output will be Alice on your console. Break down your code into smaller parts to find where the error occurs. You have a function that calculates the square of a number but it's not working correctly. So let's give this to ChatGPT. I've written, why is this function not returning the square of the number? Function is square number, and in result I'm giving number raised to power 3, return result, and then print square 2. Let's wait for the ChatGPT's response. It says the function is not returning the square of the number because it is raising the number to the power of 3 instead of 2. This is the issue. To return the square of the number, you need to raise the number to the power of 2, and here is the correct function. And the output will be 4 displayed on the console. So after fixing the error, test your code to ensure it works as expected. You fix the function and now test it with different inputs. For this, I am going to type a command that says, how can I test my square function with different inputs? So ChatGPT says, to test your square function with different inputs, you can call the function multiple times. For example, testing the square function with different inputs. First is square of 2, and we are giving 2 as input. And then we are giving 3, 4, 5, and 6. This will produce the output as follows. Expected output 4, 9, 16, and so on. You can also use a loop to test a range of values. Loop means iteratively running the same code, which is square. For this, I'm going to write a line. For I in range -5 to 6, print square of I is equals to square. For more comprehensive testing, you can use assertions to verify the function. This is not important for now, we'll discuss it later. So in this video, we have learned how to get started with Python programming, using ChatGPT to fix common errors and debug our code. ChatGPT is a powerful assistant that can help you understand programming concepts, correct your mistakes, and improve your coding skills. Before we jump into writing the code, first, let's get familiar with the Google Colab interface. Firstly, type Google Colab on your Google and click on the first link that appears. Sign in with your Google account. If you already have an account, just log in. Click on New Notebook in the corner to create a new Colab notebook. The notebook interface is divided into cells where you can write and execute your code. These are different cells. You can add more cells using this command. Now let's see how we can use ChatGPT to generate Python code for a simple tic-tac-toe game. For this, I'm going to type a prompt that says, can you provide me with the Python code for a simple tic-tac-toe game? So ChatGPT responds with, here's a simple Python implementation of a tic-tac-toe game. And it has started generating the code. You are going to copy the Python code provided by ChatGPT by clicking on this, and then paste this code on your Colab notebook. For example, I've pasted it here. Now click on the play button on the left side of the cell to execute this code. This is right here. You click on this and it has started executing the code. Let's wait for the output. So it asks player X enter the row 0, 1 or 2. You can choose between these rows. For example, I give the row 1. Then it says enter the column. I choose 1 again. And you notice here the first cross is marked on my playboard. So now you can continue playing this game if you want to. For now, this is player O's turn. So he can choose any command. For example, he chooses 0 and 0. So you notice that a 0 is marked on the playboard. So this game executes till it reaches the complete board. So now let's break down the code to understand how it works. For this, I'm going to type a prompt that says, break down the code to understand how it works. And ChatGPT responds with, sure, let's break down the code. First is printing the board. For this is the code snippet that is going to be used. Function print board. Purpose is to print the current state of the tic-tac-toe board. Parameters used are a board, which is a 2D list representing the board. It works by iterating over each element and then joining the elements with the row. Prints a separator line after each row, and then so on. So you can customize the game further by asking ChatGPT to add more features. For example, you can ask to add a feature for a score counter or make the game with good graphics. So you can type the prompts accordingly, and ChatGPT will provide code snippets as per demand. So in this video, we have learned how to use Google Colab to run Python code for a simple tic-tac-toe game. You can create other games using the same prompts. We explored the basics of Google Colab, generated Python code using ChatGPT, and customized the code to include a score counter. ChatGPT is a powerful tool that can help you write and modify code efficiently. So do give it a try. Let's start with modules. In Python, a module is simply a file containing Python code, functions, classes, or variables that you can import into your scripts to use. This allows you to organize your code into different files or reuse code written by others. For example, Python comes with many built-in modules like math, which provides mathematical functions, and OS, which allows interactions with the operating system. And by using these modules, you avoid rewriting code that has already been written, tested, and optimized by others. This is especially useful when you're working on large projects. Let's ask ChatGPT how to import and use a built-in module like math. For this, I'm going to type a prompt that says, how do I import and use the math module in Python? And ChatGPT responds with, to use the math module in Python, you first need to import it at the beginning of your script. The math module provides a wide range of mathematical functions, including basic operations, trigonometry, logarithms, and more. And here's how you can import. First, you have to write import math, and then you can use it to find square root of a number, like write a variable name and then math dot square root and then the number. And then you can always print the results. So let's try this. First, we'll import the math module and use it to calculate the square root of a number. For this, let's copy this one and go to Google Colab, make a new cell, and paste import math. Then click on run, and then make another cell and copy the second one. See how easy it is to use modules in Python. Just import them, and you have access to all these functions and classes. So it has successfully printed the square root of 16, that is 4. Now that we understand what modules are, let's talk about pip. Pip is a package manager for Python. It allows you to install and manage additional libraries and dependencies that aren't included with the Python standard library. For example, if you want to work with data, you'll likely need a library like pandas, which isn't built into Python. That's where pip comes in. So let's ask ChatGPT how to install the pandas package using pip. For this, I'll write, how do I install the pandas library using pip? So it says, to install the pandas library using pip, you can use the following command in your terminal. And the command is pip install pandas. So the steps are, first, open your terminal or command prompt. So on Windows, you can open command prompt by typing cmd, and then you'll write pip install pandas, and then press enter to run the command. Then wait for the installation to complete, and then you can verify your installations. So if this works without errors, the installation was successful. And if you're using a specific Python environment, make sure you're installing pandas within the environment. To install a package in Google Colab, you simply use the exclamation mark before the pip command. Let's do it for now. So you copy this command, go to Google Colab, type the exclamation mark first, and then paste your command, and then click on run. Once installed, you can import and use pandas just like any other module. So notice our requirement is satisfied already. Now that we have pandas installed, let's import it and use it to create a simple data frame. For this, I have typed a code, import pandas as PD, and then we are creating a simple data frame. The variable name is data and it consists of name and age. So the name are Alice, Bob, and Charlie. And their ages are 24, 27, and 22 respectively. And then I've used df pd.dataframe data and then I've printed the data frame. So when you run this, you'll see name and age of all these Alice, Bob, and Charlie next to each other. So here we have created a simple data frame with names and ages. And as you can see, it's really straightforward. So in this video, we have explored what modules are and how you can use them to make your Python code more efficient. We also learned about pip, Python's package manager, and saw how easy it is to install external libraries like pandas. Remember, these tools will become your best friends as you dive deeper into your Python programming. Up next, we'll be looking at more complex modules and libraries that can further extend your Python capabilities. Let's start with comments. Comments are lines in your code that Python ignores during execution. They are used to explain what the code does, making it easier to understand for yourself and others who might read your code later. In Python, a single line comment is created using the hashtag symbol. Everything after the hashtag on that line will be ignored by the Python interpreter. So this is a single line comment. Moving on to multi-line comment. For comments that span multiple lines, you can use triple quotes, either this way or this way. This can be useful for more detailed explanations. So this is a multi-line comment that spans multiple lines. Now, let's ask ChatGPT to show us an example of a single line comment. For this, I'm going to type that says, can you show me an example of a single line comment in Python? And it says, sure, a single line comment in Python starts with the hashtag symbol, just like we discussed before. So they have used the same example too. This is a single line comment. This prints a greeting message. So in this example, the text following hashtag is ignored by Python and is meant for adding comments or notes in your codes. Now let's run this in Google Colab to see how comments work in practice. So you copy this and go to Google Colab and paste it right here. So when you run this, this will print a greeting message that says, hello world. So now, similarly, you can ask for a multi-line comment. Next, let's talk about escape sequences. Escape sequences are special characters in a string that represent something different from their literal meaning. They are used to include characters in a string that are otherwise difficult to type. First is the new line, represented by \n. Escape sequence is used to insert a new line in a string. For example, hello, escape sequence, and then world. Next is tab, double backslash, and then t. The tab escape sequence adds a horizontal tab space. We'll be experimenting each in Google Colab. Then comes the backlash. To include a backslash in your string, you'll use 4 times backslash. Like print, this is a backslash. And then comes the quotes. You can include double or single quotes inside your strings using these double backslash and double backslash followed by a quotation mark. Now let's copy all these 4 codes and paste it in Google Colab. I'm creating a new cell and pasting the text. So first one is the new line, then comes the tab escape, and then we have the backslash and followed by quotes escape sequence. So here is an error, I have to fix it. Now let's click on run. So here you see it is printed hello world and then hello tab space world, then this is a backslash and then she said hello world. So as you can see, escape sequences allows us to format the output text in various ways. Finally, let's discuss the print statement. The print function in Python is used to display output on the screen. It's one of the most commonly used functions in Python, especially when you are debugging your code or displaying results. So this is the basic usage of print statement, that is print hello world. Then comes printing variables, where you assign a variable a name and then you print it. And then you assign a variable a name and then you print it. Next comes combining strings. Here you are using 2 strings, hello and world, and you are combining it using the print statement. Then comes the formatted strings. So here is the example of using a formatted string. Age 30 and then print F quotations I am dash years old and then quotations closed. So now let's run these on Google Colab and test them. So it has a basic print statement followed by printing a variable, combining strings and formatted string. So when you run it, you'll see hello world printed first, and then hello Alice, hello world, and I am 30 years old. So in this video, we have covered three essential concepts in Python that are comments, escape sequences, and the print statement. These tools will help you write clearer, more understandable code and format your output effectively. Understanding these basics is the key to becoming a proficient Python programmer. In the next video, we'll continue to build on these fundamentals. Operators are symbols that perform operations on variables and values. They are fundamental to writing effective code because they allow you to manipulate data and perform calculations. By the end of this lesson, I'll give you a practice exercise where you'll understand the different types of operators in Python and how to use them in your code. Let's start with arithmetic operators. These are used to perform mathematical operations. For example, adding two numbers. Then comes the subtraction operator. It subtracts one number from another. Then comes multiplication. It simply multiplies two numbers, like 7 into 3 is 21. And then comes the division operator. It divides one number by another, resulting in a float. For example, 10 divided by 2 results in 5.0. And then we have the floor division. That is represented by double backslash. It divides one number by another and rounds down to the nearest integer. Then comes the modulus, represented by percentage. It returns the remainder of a division operator. For example, 10 mod 2 results in 1. And lastly, we have the exponential, represented by asterisk. It raises one number to the power of another. For example, 2 raised to the power of 3 is 8. Let's ask chat, represented by asterisk. It raises one number to the power of another. For example, 2 raised to the power of 3 is 8. Let's ask ChatGPT to show us how to use the modulus operator. For this, I'm going to type, can you give an example of the modulus operator in Python? And ChatGPT responds with, certainly, the modulus operator in Python is used to find the remainder of a division between two numbers. And here's a simple example. So number is given a value of 10 and then the divisor is given a value of 3. And we calculate the remainder by number divided by divisor. And then we use a print statement. So let's test this on Google Colab. Copy this code, go to Google Colab and paste it here. So the remainder when 10 is divided by 3 is 1, which is the correct answer. Moving on, let's perform some basic arithmetic operations using this operator. For this, I'm going to type this code. Addition 5 plus 3, subtraction 10 minus 4, for multiplication 7 to 3, division 10 by 2, floor division 10 by 3, modulus 10 mod 3, and exponential 2 raised to power of 3. So when you run this, you'll see all these results in your terminal. So let's test this. 5 plus 3 is equals to 8. And here we get the right answer for addition. 10 minus 4 is 6. So subtraction is also correct. For multiplication, 7 into 3 is 21. For division, 10 divided by 2 results in 5.0. So for division, you always get an answer in float. And if you use this float division, you will get an answer 3. For modulus, 10 mod 3 is 1. And for exponential, 2 raised to power of 3 is 8. So all these results are correct. Next, let's look at comparison operators. These are used to compare values and return true or false. So we have these 6 operators in Python. First is equal to, represented by double equal sign. It checks if two values are equal. So if we check result is equals to 5 is equal to 5, it will result in true because 5 and 5 are equal. Then this is not equal to, represented by an exclamation mark followed by an equal sign. It checks if two values are not equal. So if you check 5 and 3, they are not equal, so it will result in true. Then we have the greater than. It checks if one value is greater than another one. So if you check 7 is greater than 3, it will result in a true value. Then we have the less than. It checks if one value is less than the other one. So 4 is less than 5, which is true. Then we have greater than or equal to, represented by greater sign and then an equal sign. It checks if one value is greater than or equal to the other one. So 5 is greater or equal to 5. And lastly, we have less than or equal to. It is the reverse of greater than or equal to function. So now let's ask ChatGPT to show us an example of the greater than operator. So for this, you can type a prompt in ChatGPT that says, can you show me an example of the greater than operator in Python. And it responds with this example. A is equal to 7 and B is equal to 5. And then it checks if A is greater than B. So let's copy this and go to Google Colab. Create a new cell and paste your code here. So 7 is greater than 5, which is the correct answer. Moving on, now we'll test the comparison operators to see their results. For this, I am using this one code. Equal to, not equal to, then greater than, less than, greater or equal or less or equal. So 5 is equal to 5. It should return true. This is the correct one. Then 5 is not equal to 3, which is also true. And then 7 is greater than 3. So if you write here 2 is greater than 3, it will result in a false value. So you see here the third one is now changed to false. So you will see how this works. Finally, let's discuss the logical operators. These operators are used to combine conditional statements. So firstly, we have the AND operator. It returns true if both the conditions are true, like 5 is greater than 3 and 7 is greater than 2. So it will result in a true value. This OR returns true if at least one of these two conditions is true. And then we have the NOT operator. It inverts the Boolean value. For example, 5 is greater than 3, and then you write NOT here, it will result in a false value. Now let's ask ChatGPT for an example using the AND operator. For this, I'm going to type a prompt that says, can you show me an example of the AND operator in Python? And it responds with x is equal to 10 and y 5. And then we check if both the conditions are true or not. So let's copy this and paste it in Google Colab. So you check this condition first, that x, which is 10, is greater than 0 and 5 is less than 10. So both the conditions are true, so this will be printed. If one of these conditions was false, it will result this one, at least one condition is false. So let's change the value of y from 5 to 15 and let's run it again. So now it says at least one condition is false. Now that you are familiar with operators, I have a simple exercise for you. I'd like you to create a function that acts as a basic calculator. Your function should be able to perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Do try this exercise and leave your answers in the comments. In this section, we'll be talking about exploration of data in Python. Understanding how Python handles different types of data is fundamental to becoming proficient in this language. In this tutorial, we'll delve deep into various data types, focusing on strings and numbers. We'll explore how to manipulate text, perform arithmetic operations, and understand the different data types Python offers. Plus, we'll walk through several live demos to solidify these concepts. Strings are one of the most commonly used data types in Python. They allow you to store and manipulate text, making them essential for any text-based operation. Let's start by printing some basic strings. A string in Python is enclosed within quotes, either single, double, or triple, or multi-line strings. For this, let's run this example. In this demo, Hello World is a simple greeting. My favorite drink is Earl Grey Tea. Shows how strings can store sentences. This demonstrates the strings can contain special characters. And 2.99 is a string that looks like a number but is treated as text. Sometimes you need to work with text that spans multiple lines. Python makes this easy with triple quotes. For this, let's run this example. So it says print triple quotes hello world, it's a great to be here, and then triple quotes bracket close. Here we see how Python preserves the indentation and line breaks, treating them as part of the string. You see this output. Trying to run a command with single starting quotations but not the ending ones will cause an error. Let's try running this. So it says unterminated string literal. So there is an error. If you just put the quotations right here and run the command again, you'll see the output. Hello world, it's great to be here. Let's talk about the type function. Python provides a handy function called type, followed by brackets, that lets you check the data type of any value or variable. This is particularly useful when you are unsure how Python is interpreting your data. Let's start by checking the type of a basic string. So let's run this. So it says string, str, which stands for string. But what about a multi-line string? So let's run this example. Even though this is a multi-line string, Python will still return str, but what if we use a number inside the quotes? So let's try running this one. So it still says str. Despite looking like a number, the quotation mark make Python treat it as a text. Now let's try a number without quotes. For this, we are going to run this example, and it says int. So the type of 100 is int, but 2.99 enclosed in brackets and quotations is string. This time Python returns int, which stands for integer. Since there is no decimal, Python interprets this as a whole number. And if you want to see an example of a float number, you can simply remove these quotations and you'll see the result quickly changed. So now it says float, since it has a decimal value. It represents a floating number, a number that includes a decimal point. Now let's talk about Python as a calculator. One of the Python's strengths is its ability to perform quick and easy arithmetic operations. Let's see how Python can help you with some basic math. Imagine you have a lemonade stand and you want to add up all your sales over the last 12 months. For this, you are going to type all these values followed by plus operator and then simply click on run. So it will give you the total sales. This simple line of code gives you the total of your monthly sales. Python handles this addition for you. What about something more complex, like calculating compound interest? For this, you can type in the chatbot, how do I compute 1.05 to the power of 10 in Python? The chatbot might respond something like this. Now let's run this together. So it says 1.6288 followed by all these numbers. So this will give you the result of raising 1.05 to the power of 10, which can be used to calculate compound interest. Python follows the same order of operations, which is PEMDAS, that you learned in your math class: parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right. Let's say you're converting a temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius. For this, you might type print 75 minus 32 into 5 divided by 9. This is the formula. If you run this, you'll see this will give you an incorrect result because Python first multiplies and divides before subtracting. To get the correct results, you should use parentheses. If you include parentheses, you'll see a statement like this: print brackets 75 minus 32 brackets closed into 5 and then divide by 9. If you run this, you'll see the correct answer, which is 23.88. Here the parentheses ensure that the subtraction is performed before the multiplication and division, giving you the correct Celsius temperature. Now that you have covered the basics, it's your turn to experiment. Try printing strings that mix numbers and letters or create multi-line strings using triple quotes. If you run into any issues, you can always ask the chatbot for help. Moving on to common errors and how to fix them. Let's go through a couple of common mistakes and how to correct them. For this, I have typed there are 366 days in a leap year. And then I have one quotation mark, but not in the start. So you see, unterminated string literal. Now let's fix the error. Here is the corrected code. Let's run this together. So it prints there are 366 days in a leap year. Another common mistake involves improper use of multi-line strings, like this one. If you run this, you'll see an error, unterminated string literal again. So here is the corrected code. Now it prints there are 366 days in a leap year. The problem here was that you are trying to create a multi-line string with single quotes, which isn't allowed. You can fix this by either using triple quotes or keeping the text on a single line. You can even have converting units example, but I will suggest you to try that by yourself. So yes, congratulations, you have just taken a deep dive into data types and arithmetic operations in Python. Whether you're working with strings, integers, or floats, Python offers powerful tools to manipulate and analyze data. Keep experimenting with these concepts and you'll be well on your way to becoming proficient in Python programming. Typecasting or type conversion is the process of converting a variable from one data type to another. This is important because it allows us to ensure that operations and functions receive the correct type of data. Let's explore how typecasting works and see some practical examples. Typecasting allows us to change a variable's data type. This is crucial when performing operations that require specific types, such as mathematical calculations or string manipulations. So here you see three most common data types that are integer, float, and string. So integer has whole numbers, and then float, which is represented by FLOAT, it represents the decimal numbers. And lastly, we have the string, represented by str, and it has all the text. Now let's talk about typecasting examples. So first one is converting from string to an integer. In a variable named numstr, we stored 123, and then we wrote int brackets and that variable's name. So it converts the string to the integer. Then we have converting from integer to float. So this is an integer number, and then we wrote float and then the variable's name. So it converted the integer to the float. Moving on to converting from float to integer. So this is a float number, 78.9. Since it has a decimal value, it is a float number. So we are going to convert this float number to string. Simply just write str outside the brackets. And lastly, we have string to float conversion. So this 45.67 is not a float number because it is enclosed in quotation marks. So we wrote this variable's name and then we wrote float outside it. So it has converted to string now. So it converts string to float. Now we'll demonstrate typecasting with live code examples in Google Colab. Follow along as we perform these conversions. Firstly, let's open Google Colab and paste our text here. So here we have an example of converting string to integer. This is a string enclosed in quotations, and then we wrote int because we are converting it into the integer. And then we printed that. We wrote string to integer and then the variable's name. So when you run this, you'll see string to integer, then that is 123. Moving on to converting integer to float. So use this example if you want to try it. We have given integer number 456 and then we are converting that into a float number. So here you see 456.0. This decimal ensures that this is a float number now. Moving on to converting a float number to string. So you can use this example. We have a float number 78.9 and we are going to convert that into a string. So it says float to string 78.9. And lastly, let's see an example for converting string to float. Here we have a string 45.67 and we are going to convert that into a float. So by running these examples, you can see how Python handles type conversions between strings, integers, and floats. It's essential to use these conversions correctly to avoid type errors in your code. If we talk about the practical use cases, typecasting is used in various scenarios in programming, such as user input. When reading input from users, it's often in string format. You need to convert it to the appropriate type for calculations or comparisons. We can understand that with this example. User input, and then we wrote input, enter a number, and then int user input, and this will convert any input to integer for further calculations. Next use case is data processing. In data processing and analysis, data may come in different formats. You often need to convert between types to perform accurate computations. Next is formatting output. So when generating output, you might need to convert numbers to strings for formatting purposes. So these examples illustrate how typecasting is applied in real-world scenarios to handle various data types effectively. To wrap up, typecasting is a fundamental concept in Python that allows you to work with different data types seamlessly. So do give an experiment to all these conversions. In this video, we'll explore how to take user input in Python. Gathering input from users is a fundamental part of interactive programming. We'll cover different methods for collecting user input and demonstrate how to process this input effectively. In Python, the primary way to take input from the user is through the input function. This function reads a line from input. Then it converts it into a string and returns it. Let's go through some basic examples. So this is a basic user input method. You enter your message here, closed in quotations and brackets, and outside the brackets you write the keyword input, and then you assign it into a variable. Moving on to basic input. Here you give a variable name, and then you wrote input, what is your name? And then you print hello, concatenate it with the variable where you're going to give the input. So in this example, we prompt the user to enter their name, which we then use to greet them. And lastly, we have input with prompts. Here we ask the user for their age. Note that input returns the data as a string, even if the input is numerical. We'll be testing all these examples in Google Colab too. Moving on to type conversions. Since input always returns a string, you often need to convert this data to the appropriate type. Let's see how to handle this one. First, we have an example for converting to integer. Here we convert the age from a string to an integer to perform numerical operations. Then we have converting to float. This example converts the height input to a float, which is useful for measurements involving decimals. Be sure to handle potential errors that can occur if the user inputs invalid data. For example, if the input cannot be converted to the required type, Python will raise a value error. Now let's implement some of these concepts in Google Colab. I'll show you how to collect and process user input. Firstly, let's start with basic user input. For this, let's open Google Colab and paste this text from GPT here. So it says name, username, and then we greet it with hello. So when you run this, you will see a box like this. It asks, what is your name? Let's enter your name here. For example, let's write Rose and press enter. So it says, hello, Rose. If you run it again, it will ask for your name again. And now you can write, for example, Sam. When you press enter, it will greet you, hello, Sam. Let's try with another example. In this one, we are using input and conversions. Create a new cell and paste this text from GPT. Here we created a variable named age string and we input our age. And then we try age to convert string to integer. And then we print this message. So let's try this. Enter your age. Let's enter 20. When you enter, it says you are 20 years old. If you run it again and type ABC, it will say please enter a valid number for age. Next we have input and conversions with floats. For this, you can see this example. It will ask enter your height in meters. Let's say I am 164. So it prints your height is 164.0 meters. If I run again and I'll type this time, hey, it will say please enter a valid number for height. So here we handle potential errors by using try and except blocks. This ensures that our program doesn't crash if the user enters invalid data. To summarize, the input function is your go-to method for gathering user input in Python. And converting this input to the appropriate data type is crucial for accurate data processing. Here's a simple exercise for you. Create a program that asks the user for their favorite number and their favorite color. Convert the number to an integer and print a message that combines both the inputs. For example, if the user enters 7 for the number and blue for the color, the output should be your favorite number is 7 and your favorite color is blue. Try coding this exercise for yourself. And if you have any trouble, feel free to ask in the comment section. Strings are one of the most commonly used data types in Python. Whether you're storing text data, processing user input, or generating outputs, strings are fundamental. We'll explore what strings are, how to work with them, and we'll even use ChatGPT to assist us with some live demos. Let's dive into the basics of strings and see how they can make text handling in Python a breeze. Let's start with what are strings. A string in Python is essentially a sequence of characters enclosed in quotes. Strings can contain letters, numbers, symbols, or even spaces. In Python, you can define a string using single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes. The flexibility in using different types of quotes allows for easy handling of different situations, such as including quotes within a string. So these three are examples of single, double, and triple quotes respectively. Now let's talk about strings are immutable. One important property of strings in Python is that they are immutable. This means that once you create a string, you cannot change it directly. For example, you can't modify a single character within a string. Instead, you need to create a new string within the desired changes. So this is the example of immutable strings. First, we wrote hello into a variable called text. Then in the second line, we tried to access the first element, which was age, and we wanted to replace it with j. So this will raise an error as strings are immutable. Let's move on to a practical demonstration. We'll use ChatGPT to guide us through creating and working with strings in Python. Go to ChatGPT and type a prompt that says, How do I create a string in Python? ChatGPT responds with, in Python, a string is created by enclosing a sequence of characters in quotes. So it also tells us that you can use single, double, or triple quotes. So here are some examples. First is about single quotes. Note that we wrote hello world enclosed in single quotations. This is the example of double quotations. We wrote hello world in double quotations now. And for triple single quotes, either you can use these triple single quotes or you can use triple double quotes. So the choice of quotes allows flexibility, especially when your string contains quotes itself. So this code demonstrates the creation of strings with different types of quotes. Notice how the triple quoted string preserves the line break, which is useful for handling multi-line text. Moving on to accessing characters in a string. Strings in Python can be thought of as a list of characters. This means you can access individual characters by their index, with indexing starting at 0 for the first character and going negative for characters from the end of the string. So this is the example. We created a variable named as greetings and we stored hello world in it. If we want to print just age, we need to write the variable name and 0. And if we want to print the last element, that is exclamation mark in this case, we'll have to write -1. So this allows you to retrieve specific characters from a string, making it easy to manipulate text data in precise ways. So let's copy this code and paste it Google Colab to see how this works. So I have created a cell and I'm going to paste my text here. When I run this, it will print age and exclamation mark respectively. Here is our answer. So in this lesson, we explored what strings are and how to create them in Python. Strings are a core part of programming, and understanding them, how they work, is essential for handling text data effectively. We also covered the immutability of strings and how to access individual characters using indexing. In the next lesson, we'll dive deeper into string operations and slicing, which will allow you to manipulate strings in even more powerful way. So see you there. Now we are going to explore string operations and slicing in Python. These are powerful tools that will help you manipulate and extract parts of a string effectively. Whether you're combining strings, repeating them, or slicing out specific portions, these techniques are essential for working with text data. And of course, we'll use ChatGPT to help us with live demos. Let's get started. First, let's talk about concatenation. String concatenation is the process of combining two or more strings together with a plus operator. It's as simple as placing the strings you want to combine on either side of the plus symbol. This is the example. We created a variable called greetings and we stored hello in quotation marks. Then we created another variable called name and we stored Alice. Then we created another variable named full greetings. We concatenated greeting, name, and exclamation mark, and we used the plus operator to help us. And then in the next line, we have printed the variable named full greetings, and it will give us an output called hello Alice followed by an exclamation mark. Concatenation is used when you want to create a new string by merging the existing ones. For example, you might concatenate a greeting with a user's name to personalize messages. Now let's talk about repetition. String repetition allows you to repeat a string multiple times using the multiplication operator. This is handy when you need to create repeated patterns or duplicate a string a certain number of times. So here we created a variable called laugh and we stored HA here. And then we printed laugh into 3. And this is going to output HA 3 times. It will look something like this. Ha ha ha. Repetition is especially useful in scenarios where you want to generate repeated sequence without manually typing them. So now let's see how ChatGPT can assist us with string operations. We'll ask it for examples of concatenation and repetition. For this, I'm going to type, first let's go to ChatGPT and let's type here, show me how to concatenate and repeat strings in Python. And it is going to give us two codes for that. So for concatenation, it gives the hello world code. Let's copy this and go to Google Colab. Here I'm going to create a new cell and paste our code. So it has concatenated these two strings, hello and world. String 1 and string 2 are concatenated here. So moving on to the other This is the repeating string example. So let's copy this and create a new cell again. So this is going to print hello 3 times. You can change the number here. If you write 9 and run again, it is going to print hello 9 times. So see how easy is this. This demo showcases the ease of combining and repeating strings using Python's built-in operators. ChatGPT makes it even simpler by providing ready-to-use examples. Now let's talk about string slicing. Slicing allows you to extract specific parts of a string by specifying a start and end index. This is extremely useful when you need to retrieve a portion of a string, such as a substring. For this, let's look at an example. So here we created a variable called text and we wrote Python programming. If you just want to extract Python, you can write the starting index of p and the ending index of n, which is 0 to 6. And if you want to output programming, you can write 7, and either you can count all these and type the end one, or you can just simply leave after colons. Slicing provides flexibility in accessing and manipulating parts of a string, whether you're interested in the beginning, middle, or end. Negative indexing is another powerful feature of Python. It allows you to slice from the end of the string, making it easier to access parts of string without calculating their exact position from the start. So here, if we want to print programming, we can write -11 and then colons. It will print only this part. This feature is particularly helpful when you want to quickly access or modify the last few characters in a string. To wrap up, string operations and slicing are essential skills for working with text in Python. Whether you're combining strings, repeating them, or extracting specific parts, these tools give you the power to manipulate text data with precision. This is the final lesson on strings in Python. Today, we are diving into string methods. These are built-in functions that allow you to easily manipulate and analyze strings. Whether you need to format text, remove unwanted spaces, or split a sentence into words, Python string methods have you covered. And as always, we'll use ChatGPT to guide us through examples and demos. Let's get started. Let's begin by exploring some of the most commonly used string methods in Python. These methods are essential for working with text data, and once you master them, your ability to manipulate strings will improve significantly. First, we have upper and lower. First up, upper and lower, these methods are straightforward, but incredibly useful. Upper converts all the string's character to uppercase, while lower converts them to lowercase. For example, we have a text, hello world, and if we wrote text.upper, it will convert all these characters into uppercase. And if we wrote text.lower, it is going to convert all the text into lowercase, including the capital H and W. Let's say you have a string that needs to be converted to uppercase for consistency, or to lowercase for a case-insensitive comparison. You can use these methods to handle that in a single step. Notice how upper transforms hello world into hello world and lower changes it into lowercase. These methods are handy for data normalization tasks where consistency is the key. Moving on to second thing, that is strip. Next we have the strip function. This method removes any leading or trailing white spaces from a string. It's great when you are dealing with user input or data that might have extra spaces. Let's look at this. Imagine getting input from a user where they accidentally added spaces before or after their text. Using strip function ensures that those extra spaces don't interfere with you processing. For example, if you need to compare user input to a stored value, trimming the spaces avoids mismatches caused by the accidental spaces. For example, somebody wrote Python and gave too many spaces in the start and in the end. It might cause trouble for them. For this, they can use strip function and this will output Python. It will remove all the white spaces. Now let's look at replace. This method allows you to replace a specific substring within a string with another substring. It's perfect for tasks like correcting typos or modifying text. If you see this example, consider a scenario where you are processing a document and you need to replace all instances of a certain word. Replace function lets you do that effortlessly. In the example, we replace word world with Python, turning hello world into hello Python. It's a simple yet powerful way to update strings. And finally, we have split and join. These methods are incredibly useful when you need to break a string into a list of words or join a list of words into a string. Look at this example. Let's break this down. Split takes a string and splits it into a list of words, which is useful when you need to analyze or manipulate individual words. In our example, the string Python is fun becomes a list Python is fun separately. And then on the flip side, join allows you to take a list of words and join them back into a string. This is particularly handy when you are reconstructing text after processing or formatting. By using a space as a separator, we join the words back into the sentence, and we wrote Python is fun at the end. Now that we have discussed the basics, let's see these methods in action using ChatGPT. We'll ask ChatGPT to demonstrate examples of these common strings, and we'll run them in Google Colab. Let's go to ChatGPT and we'll type, "Can you show me examples of common string methods in Python?" So let's copy them one by one. This is for uppercase. Let's copy this and go to Google Colab, create a new cell, and it will change this hello into uppercase hello, like this. So let's copy the other one. This will convert into lowercase. And now let's look at this string title. When you copy this, it will convert the first letter of each word to capital. Next we have this string.capitalize function. It capitalizes the first letter of the string and converts the rest to lowercase. Let's try this. So only H should be capital, but not W of the word. And here is the answer. Now let's see the strip function. It should remove the white spaces from the string, like we discussed earlier. So you see the output has only hello. It does not have any white spaces in the start or at the end. Next we have string.replace function. This is very interesting. It replaces occurrences of old with new in the string. For example, if you copy this, you'll notice that the output will be hello Python rather than hello world. So let's run this. It produces output hello Python, although the text contains hello world. But we have used the replace function and we have replaced world with Python. You can change it to anything, like you can write hello guys, and when you run this, it will print hello guys. Next we have the split delimiter function. It will split the string into a list based on the specified delimiter. So we have hello and world separately now. And then we have the join function. This is the reverse of the split function. It is going to join hello world together. Notice how each method performs exactly as we discussed earlier. This demo shows how easy it is to use these methods in Python. With ChatGPT's assistance, you can quickly get examples and explanations, making it a powerful tool for learning and coding. So in this lesson, we have covered some of the most useful string methods in Python, such as the upper function, lower, strip, replace, split, and join. These methods make working with strings efficient and straightforward, allowing you to format, manipulate, and analyze text with ease. With these skills, you are well equipped to handle text processing tasks in Python. In our next section, we'll dive into control flow, starting with if-else statements. So do experiment with these strings, methods, slicing, operations, and much more.